No, exactly. And don't take this the wrong way, but I don't care if they ditch. You come and race for all the money here, and if you don't like it, I guess that's just part of it. So everyone has to race the same format. It's the way it is.
Green flag in the air.
Hey everyone, Tod Quiring is a very successful businessman. He currently owns two very successful dirt tracks in the upper Midwest. He is also the owner of the current World of Outlaw point leading car, team, and driver, and the owner of the defending World of Outlaw point champion team. We're going to get Todd in here today. We're going to talk about the upcoming race at Huset Speedway, the 100K to win and the 250K to win, known as the Huset's Hustle, the 100 grand to win, and then the High Bank Nationals, the 250 grand to win. We're also going to visit with him about where he got started, how he got into the sprint car world, his role as owner of teams and tracks both. So excited to get Todd on the show here. Let's get him in here and talk a little bit about Tod Quiring, Huset Speedway, Jackson Speedway, and his successful World of Outlaw team.
All right, hey, Tod Quiring is with us today, sitting down in his office at Huset Speedway. And Todd, thanks a lot for coming on and joining us this week. I know you guys got a big event scheduled coming up at Huset Speedway. I'm sure you guys are real busy down there right now.
Yeah, it's been very busy. Actually, all year it's been very busy. We start preparing for this event. Well, we start preparing after our flood last year. We started preparing right away. But the last few months, since the weather's been nice, it's been work in progress here. So I think we're ready to go.
It's a really big event, very similar to what goes on out at Eldora Speedway with their Kings Royal and stuff like that. Tell us just a little bit about how you got the idea to get this race going and what drives you to keep this going. It obviously a lot of money involved, a lot of work behind the scenes. What enticed you to say, hey, I want to take on a big event like this?
Yeah, I think, Lanny, when I purchased Jackson Motorplex, obviously we remodeled that and redid that whole facility. Our goal was to have large events. When I purchased Huset Speedway, it was a nice facility, but we have done a lot of work on that. And we've tried different things. We've tried to run Jackson and Huset's and large events in the past. We tried to figure out what works the best, and we think we're getting it narrowed down right now at Huset's to what is working the best. And the June racing, there's so many big races, obviously starting with the Kings Royal in July, and then you go into Knoxville, and then it goes into the fall with the National Open out east and so forth. We just thought it was a good idea not to try to get on in July and August because there's so much racing. So let's create an event in June, and I think we've established that, or we're continuing to establish that. So that's really what we're doing, Laney.
Big money coming up, and you mentioned the floods last year that unfortunately postponed and altered the program a little bit, having to shove it back into August there. Obviously something you guys would not choose to have happen. I've been paying attention, and I live just a couple hours north of you guys, and 6 inches of rain up in Sisseton yesterday. We got 2.5 inches here in Watertown, and we all know water flows downstream. The old Split Rock Creek right outside the track. Any concerns about that? Anything you guys are monitoring right now?
No, your rainfall up there is I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't come down there, but I think our rainfall, I think we got an inch over there and just north of there, inch and a half, whatever. That's fine. It's those 6 to 12 to 15 inch rains like we had last year leading up to the event. We had 12 inches of rain leading up to Atlanta. So, and then we got all the rain that week. So, no, looking at the forecast, I think we're in a better position this year.
So you've got this big event coming up. You've got cars coming in from all over the country. You've got the World of Outlaw regulars. We've got a lot of the high limit guys coming in. We've got Pennsylvania cars, Missouri cars. How exciting is it to see this event grow? The entries get bigger each year, and obviously it takes a little bit to get a deal like this established, and you guys are well on your way with that.
Yeah, I think I like the format we're running as well. Our points format, that you're racing for points every time you go out there. You're not just getting locked in to finish top two. Unique format. I also like splitting up the week. And I'll be honest, we got that idea from, Tony Stewart, what he's doing at Eldora. He's splitting up the week. And you're qualifying Wednesday night, which means something, for the 100,000 Thursday night. And then you push reset again. And Friday night, you qualify for the big 250,000 Saturday night. It gives you 2 chances to win money. It splits up the week. It's not all relying on one heat race, or it's not all relying on one feature. So we really like that from the driver standpoint, but not only the driver standpoint, the fans are going to watch great racing all week, every time. And we're not splitting our field. So you can watch, if you want to watch Donnie Schatz or David Gravel, you can watch them every single night. It's hard on the teams racing 4 nights, I'm not going to lie to you, but the fans don't have to pick a night. They come all 4 nights, and you can watch your favorite driver.
Well, if you're racing for that kind of money, you probably should expect to have to race your butt off a little bit also.
Oh, I totally agree with you.
Tell us just a little bit about the format for a few people that might just be watching for the first time or anything. It is a unique format, and you definitely, it leads to some surprise guys up front sometime. But as we've seen from any big race, Eldora, Knoxville, Williams Grove, Huset's, the cream always rises to the top. Talk about the format.
Yeah, the format. So I don't want to get all into detail on that, because I don't want to make something. I don't know how they've switched it a little bit. They tweak it every year a little bit, but essentially you're racing for points. We go and qualify, you get qualifying points, and then we invert. I feel it's 6. We invert 6 based on points, and then you get finishing points, not passing points. I feel it's finishing points. You add up your points, and your top points guys line you up for how you do that night. So your dashes and so forth, and your C's and your B's. And I think we have 60 plus cars signed in already, so we're probably gonna have non-qualifier, before the heat races and so forth. So that's Wednesday night. Thursday night, it's how your points average, or how your complete points. Then that lines you up where you start on Wednesday night for the 100,000 to win. Same situation on Friday to Saturday.
Yep. Do you get a little bit of conflict from some of the owners or other owners or the drivers, I should say, where this is tough or anything like that? Obviously, everybody's not going to always be happy with the format, but here's the thing is, you're paying the format, you're paying the purse, you can make it any format you want.
No, exactly. Don't take this the wrong way, but I don't care if they bitch. You come to race for all the money here, and if you don't like it, I guess that's just part of it. So everyone has to race the same format. That's the way it is. It might be good for you Wednesday night, bad for you Thursday night, but then you can come back, and it might be really good on Friday night or really bad on Friday night for Saturday. So it's all balanced out. I get a kick out of that when I hear these guys, complain about, God, I want to start up front. Well, don't we all? But it's just the way it is. So, and then that's what racing's all about. So,
you purchased Huset Speedway 2020, and the car counts were a little bit, they were there, but you had to bring this thing back. And I just crunched some numbers this morning. You guys have averaged 33.6 410 sprint cars every Sunday night this week so far. That's equivalent to the Knoxville Raceway. It is better than some of the places out east that have the guys do this for a living. Your guys' purse is $5,000 to win every weeknight, every weekly show that you have. And I want to say that it's $500 to start. You guys have had to work real hard to do that. Does it make you feel good saying, hey, we've established that Huset's is a great place to come and run on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I feel so. I think it's taken a little bit of time. Obviously, we work closely with the other racetracks, Knoxville in particular, even like, the NOSA series up there. We work with those guys too, because we have a fair amount of their competitors too. But we all try not to race on the same night. I know the East Coast or Pennsylvania, I don't think does a very good job at that. They're all racing, on the same night, and it just really doesn't work. But to your point, when we purchased the track, that was one of our goals. Get our sprint car class, get our 410 class back. We've really built the 305 class, and realistically, Lanny, we've graduated a lot of these 305 kids, let's call them kids, which they should graduate at some point out of there into 410s, and I think that's what you're seeing. You're seeing invaders pop in on certain nights, and then you're seeing some of these young guys graduate out into the 410s, which is great to see, because that's the future of the sport. So,
when you say invaders, you could talk about Ryan Timms, Landon Crawley, some of those guys, but they're really not invaders this year. They've been there the majority of the races, and I think that just speaks out enough for yourself right there as to the purse is worth coming there. You're not just coming there to get lap time for a big race.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just not top heavy. I mean, we pay, you only can pay, a certain amount through the field, but we don't only pay 5,000 to win. We pay 543. So you can still come out of there with some decent amount of money. We have a decent points fund. It's part of growing it. We've invested in the purse, to try to build this car count. So I think we're really seeing it the last few years.
Yeah, and I noticed, I did look at your purse also, $1,000 for 10th place. And back when I was involved with the 410 racing at Huset's as a mechanic and working for a guy, you had to get second place to get $1,000 at Huset Speedway. Now that tells you how old I am, maybe, but it also tells you how far you've grown that part of the deal.
Yeah, a lot of that is just times change too, and everything has evolved here. And when you take pay-per-view packages and that type of thing. But you're exactly right, Laney. I was going to the races back then too, and I still remember 2,500 to win, and I think it was a big deal when they went to 1,400 for second and 800 for third. So, but that's just the demographic we had back then, So
let's jump back a little bit and talk about Tod Quiring as a young lad growing up in Windham, Minnesota. What enticed you? What got your interest in the sprint car world?
I think as we were young kids, I'm going to say, as like our friends and so forth, we would go to Jackson on Saturday nights. And, there wasn't, when we were younger, there just wasn't as much stuff to do. It was people didn't travel like they do now. Now anymore, there's baseball 7 nights a week. There's soccer. There's lake. There's so much stuff to do, and it seems like families, choose to do a lot of that right now. And we didn't have a lot of choices. I lived in a small town, 4,000 people. Jackson likewise, and it was a big deal. All your neighbors would all let's go to Jackson. We didn't go every Saturday night, but we went a lot of Saturday nights, and kind of just really enjoyed it back then. We were kids.
Yeah. So as you got interest in that and enjoyed it, obviously you moved forward with some financial assistance to get in the sport. Tell us a little bit about that transition into, hey, I'm not a fan anymore. I really enjoy this, and I want to help some people out.
Well, I've said this in other interviews I've done and so forth. So when I was in high school, then I got involved in competitive sports, and then I played college sports, and so I kind of just, I'm not saying gave up on racing, but only so much you can do. So I really didn't get back into going to races again until I started going to, let's call it Huset's then, because Jackson was kind of getting out of sprint cars at that point. It was mostly like stock cars. So it was probably when I got done with college, or like 22 or so forth, when I started going to the races again. And then obviously I had our business and so forth. So it just kind of one thing led to another, and started sponsoring a car or two, and it just, as things grew, and I looked at some maybe the cross marketing and the businesses we were in, did it make sense? Maybe not 100%, but I always say in all the business I've owned, how do you quantify advertising? It's really tough to quantify any type of advertising, whether it's radio, whether it's your sponsors on your podcast and so forth. It's just hard to quantify, but you do it, and there's some advantages to doing it for taxes and that type of thing too. So you just do what you feel, and then if it's a hobby, you might spend a few more bucks on it. So I think that's kind of how ours evolved.
So the first person that you ever, let's just say, financially helped out in the sport, you even remember who that was? Because I got nothing.
Yeah, so Terry McCarl, I think I met him at Huset's. I think he was pretty much dominating over there back in the day on the weekly shows, and I think my first sponsorship, I can't quite remember, it was like $1,500 for a little hood sponsor on the front of the hood or something like that. So then the one thing led to another, and the sponsorship grew there, and then obviously we've had a handful of drivers, not a terrible lot through the, I think it's 5 or so forth, as we started the ownership role. So
what year did you become an actual owner of a team?
I think it was 2000. I think it was 2008, maybe 7 or 8. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I was browsing through my memory, and some drivers that I had come up with was obviously Terry McCarl, Sammy Swindell that you had. I don't know if that was as an owner or a
Yep,
sponsorship
I
deal.
owned all Sammy's stuff. He drove for me, and then Craig Delansky, and
Yep.
then Danny Lasowski, and then Kerry Madsen, and now on to gravel. So
Okay, so I want to ask you a question. I was looking through trying to get some stuff up to date, and I saw that in 2000 and I want to say 2009, Johnny Herrera listed as the point champion at Knoxville Raceway under Big Game Motorsports. Johnny never drove for you, did he?
no, Johnny never drove. I don't know if that's a mistake or whatever.
Yeah, it's got to
So
be because I was like scratching my head on that one myself too. But I went to the Knoxville deal, and I'll have to go back and verify that. But I just
that might be a mistake.
this is going to be a quick in-show edit. But after doing a little bit of investigating, I did find out that Johnny Herrera did indeed win the Drivers' Championship at Knoxville Raceway in 2009. But Tod Quiring and his team won the Owners' Championship, which means there was obviously split championships that year. Todd had a couple different drivers in there, but accumulated enough points to win the Owners' Championship that year. Johnny won the drivers' points. Just want to throw that out there real quick.
I mean, I've had some partnerships with Chad Clemens at CJB. I was a marketing partner.
Yeah.
Janet Holbrook and I put together a team with Janet was really the owner, but I owned a lot of the stuff. And Dale Blaney drove it and won the All Stars that one year.
Yeah.
So I partnered with her. So I've had a few things like that, one-off deals that we partnered with on some people, but I didn't fully own those teams. So
Then all of a sudden you're a World of Outlaw team owner. And your first driver for that, I want to say, and I might be wrong, was Craig Delansky.
So at the end of when Terry McCarl drove for me, I owned that team. I think at the very tail end of that, and then Sammy started evolving in that, moving forward, and then Sammy and Craig was full-time Outlaws, and Sammy was we ran about a 50% Outlaw schedule together for like 3 years there. So
Was that when you had two teams rolling up and down the road?
Yep, exactly. Sammy raced 50% of it. Delansky raced the full deal. So
Yeah. So now you've come full circle. Last year you've got that elusive World of Outlaw Championship. David Gravel, Cody, and those guys have done an amazing job for your team. Talk a little bit about getting to that point and the, not the struggles, but maybe a few disappointments here and there, hard knocks to finally achieve that.
yeah, you've been around racing all your life, Lanny, and you've worked with Donnie, and so you know how all this works. I mean, it's about meshing the whole team together. I mean, I can buy the best stuff in the world and 20 of it, but if the guys don't work together and that type of thing, I mean, we have our challenges just like any other team, but I think sometimes that's maybe where I'll step in and try to bring everyone kind of back together. And I'll tell you one thing, it's a lot easier when you're winning, as you know. And when you're winning, things are pretty good, but then you expect to win too when you get third some nights, and you expect to win, so then there's a little bit. But for the most part, I think we have built a really solid team with Cody and Zach, and now Pete. Pete came on board, and Pete's worked on and off for me for 15 years. So, I mean, he brings a lot of maturity to the team as well. So they all work together. I'm not saying they don't butt heads every now and then, but they all work together really well.
Now, so you're saying Cody doesn't bring the maturity?
Well, he's getting there. He's getting there, but Pete's 50 years old, so Cody's not 50 yet. So I think when Cody's 50, I think then he'll be where Pete's at as far as maturity. So.
And now you have another driver on the team also from what I saw the other night over at Huset Speedway.
Well, so Zach Patterson, he's wanted to race, and he's raced go-karts and quarter midgets, and Zach's from Oklahoma. So last year he drove one of Jay Major's cars, I think, went out, and I think he won a feature last year with it, and it was all Jay's stuff. So we started talking, and I told the guys, I said, well, we got all these cars sitting here. I said, let's put together a car for Zach. So he's enjoying it. I think he'll race about 5 times this year.
Well, that wasn't a one-off then the other
I know one
week.
thing, instead of staying overnight somewhere Saturday nights, those guys pretty much get home for Sunday so Zach can race instead of staying overnight Saturday night. So it's a fun deal for him. So.
And they don't. The unique part about it is they don't need a truck and trailer. They don't need nothing. They got the mule out of your rig, and obviously Ripper had his there the other night. And that's the fun part of the deal that a lot of you don't get to do a lot. So to do that was probably kind of just enjoyable more than anything.
Yeah, that's just a fun deal. The guys, they all like, being what's it called, the crew, the coach. There's a lot of crew chiefs, I can tell you, and when you get all those guys together, and so Zach's head probably spins a little bit. So, but
Well, and then he's in the work area and he's not working on it.
yeah, no, exactly. But no, that's a fun deal. So, hopefully I know they're having fun doing it, especially Zach. So.
Okay, so let's jump back to the track owner deal. You purchased Jackson Motor Speedway, and now it's known as the Jackson Motorplex, I believe. 2015, I think that was. Tell us a little bit about what got your interest in that and how that all went down. Because if I remember right, that was a fair board owned racetrack up until that point.
Yeah, it was. John McCorkle was the promoter there for years, and kudos to John for keeping that going, because it wasn't that easy of a deal to keep it going, and I don't know, honestly, the track is still kind of a struggle for us. But so the county, I think John gave it up, as I remember, and he called me and wanted me to kind of, I think, help him with it, or we talked back and forth. And the county, met with the county, and they wanted me to invest, funds in it and so forth. And I said, that's all good, but I'm going to buy it then. I don't want to, I'm not going to sit there and lease it and put millions of dollars into it and lease it. So we worked out a deal where I bought the racetrack, and then obviously, we've really pretty much remodeled and built it from scratch, new again. So, but yeah, that's how that evolved.
It was originally a half mile, a big, long straightaway, tight corner half mile, you want to call it. Did you know you were going to cut that thing down before you bought it?
Well, just the way that, it was a narrow half mile, and the way racing is going right now, I mean, as you see, everyone wants to watch a good race. And, as much as we loved going to Jackson, it was a tough passing track all those years. And it just, it was narrow, and, you almost had to run the guy over in front of you and so forth. So, first of all, we widened that half mile for the first year. So we widened it, and the racing was pretty good. Then we got back to the point, if we're going to build these weekly shows, it's just so hard on engines. And these local guys, they can't just keep, blowing up $60,000 engines or whatever. So then we decided, let's measure this thing out. We need some drainage, anyway on here. And we shortened it up. We actually just pulled in 3 and 4 is what we ended up doing. It really didn't do anything else, and widened it out a little bit, and now it's the shape it is. It's not a perfect shape, like Donnie and I have talked about this before. It kind of races round, and realistically, and I would like to do this at some point, the front stretch wall needs to be pushed out towards the racetrack, so you can't cheat the bottom of one. So, because it's a round circle, and it gets to be just a, until you get to the feature, So I would like to do that. I think about 15 feet, you could move it in, and you couldn't cheat one all the time, so you'd have to commit. So kind of like Huset's is, actually. It's pretty narrow coming down the front stretch. So anyway, not to get onto that, but that's something we would like to do in the future. I just don't know when it'll happen.
So not only did you redo the track, but you basically ripped the grandstands down, the concession, everything. If you were at Jackson Motor Speedway 20 years ago and hadn't been there and you rolled up there today, you wouldn't even think you're at the right place. Talk about the excitement for you to build that place up, and the commitment it takes to get a first-class facility out in the middle of Minnesota.
Yeah, so I obviously had traveled a lot of tracks, and I took notes and that type of thing. The first year we had that, we didn't have the fence in turns 1 and 2, but we knew we were going to put that up. So realistically, the only thing that is still standing on that racetrack is that concession stand was the only thing we did leave there, because the county had built that new. But there was a lot of planning that went into it. I took a lot of notes from different tracks, and I really wanted to have the concrete midway so you could sit underneath the grandstands and still watch the races if you wanted to, if you're grabbing a beer or t-shirt or whatever. I really like that. I know one thing. I wish Chuck Brennan would have given me the money and I could have built Huset's the way I wanted to, because I'd have changed it to make it flow better. Jackson flows really well from our concessions to our, how you get off on turn 1, how you push off on turn 2. It just flows so much better. we're making tweaks at Huset's, but, in order to do some of the efficiency things at Huset's, you got to make some wholesale changes there with fencing and so forth. And we might someday, but I don't think it's going to happen in the next couple of years. So.
Huset Speedway was next on my topic, and you led into it here. Chuck Brennan, sorry, that's a swear word in my book, and I don't know how you stand with him, but the guy about ruined racing in the Sioux Falls, Brandon area. You came in 2000, I want to say, was it 2020 that you were able to purchase that from him and save racing at Huset's. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to jump in there. Brandon had said if he doesn't get a buyer, he's leveling the joint. And we know once a racetrack is gone, it's never coming back.
Well, I think, first of all, Chuck, I knew him fairly well. I didn't have a lot, as far as I wasn't that involved. He looked at us as a competitor over at Jackson, but I'm always cordial with him and so forth. And he reached out to me several times, but obviously he started up here at the price, and obviously it only makes sense at a certain amount. But I think during COVID is really what really pushed that. When he knew, I don't think he wanted to shut it down, but I think he was like expecting more out of his concerts and racing and let's face it, you got to massage the race programs and do kind of like what we're doing to make big events. And I don't think you can just go out there and then throw here $50,000 event and then just they'll come. And I think that's kind of what he did, and it just really wasn't working. So I don't think he was ever going to level it, Lanny. I think that was just like to get everyone wound up and like they like to do on some of these podcasts. That was part of his let's find a buyer. Well, I think he found out that he didn't have any buyers out there. So he shot me a text. I think it was like May of COVID year. And he said he was ready to sell it. And I said, okay, well, and we actually made a pretty quick deal, came to a pretty quick deal I thought would work for us. I knew the Sioux Falls market. I knew the racing would work back over there again. Now it's taken a little while to get some of our fan support back, but I will say, they're some of the best fans. I'm going to say Sioux Falls area, because there's a lot of area around Sioux Falls.
Yeah, yep.
And there's a lot of corporations, and I can't thank them enough. They all really, if you look at our billboards, our digital advertising, and our sponsorships at the track, it's incredible. Our suite holders, it's incredible. From top to bottom there. So it's a lot easier we're still growing at Lanny. We're not where we want to be with that, but we're making strides every year. So
as a successful businessman, you obviously know it takes a group of people when you're going to achieve something like you're trying to achieve. In 2015, when you purchased Jackson Motor Speedway, you named Doug Johnson as your general manager, promoter. I don't know what the exact job title is. And then you kept him on. He's done obviously a great job for you at Jackson. When you purchased Huset Speedway, he got the same title there too. Talk about the importance of Doug Johnson. When you talk about sponsorships, banners, advertising, that's his role to make that stuff happen, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Doug does a great job. Obviously, when we did bought Jackson, Doug came to me. I think he was working at Bedford and Worthington at that point in sales. He came to me, and I knew we needed to have someone full time. A lot of these tracks do it, like with a part-time promoter and they have other jobs. Well, if we were going to ever get this thing to where we wanted to, we're going to have to invest in people. Did it make sense right away? Probably not. As far as just having, Jackson and so forth, but. Doug's done a great job, obviously, if you know him, which you're good friends with him too. He's got a passion like no other. I always say, and we kind of joke about it sometimes, that, wonder what Doug's doing tonight. Well, he's probably going to a go-kart race down in wherever because there's nothing else going on, So he really has a passion for racing. I think that's what it takes is people like that have passion for it. And Doug has a great amount of passion and puts a lot of hours in what he does. So does a great job.
And then he still gets to a lot of races. People probably aware of the fact that Doug's only child, Caleb, has turned into a pretty good shoe himself in the sprint car world. So it's got to be fun to be a promoter and be able to watch your own child out there succeeding at a track that you've basically helped bring back to life.
Yeah, Caleb's really progressed the last several years. Obviously, everyone knows he started in go-karts, and then he went to 305s, and then he graduated into a 360, and then now he's pretty much 410s. And it's a lot different than a 360 or 305, but he's done a great job, and especially this year figuring out Husets, and I know that he's still working on his Knoxville program, which aren't we all? So it's just he's done a great job, and like I said, Doug gets to a lot of races yet too, and Taylor, my son, does a lot with Doug, and Ryan Knigge, he's been with me for 20 years, and he's kind of switched over to our racetrack side, and they all work together. All three of those guys work very well together, and we'll just keep building the team. I mean, we're not where we want to be yet, but that's why we built the office and stuff up there. We'll probably keep adding to our team to give these guys some support. So,
Talking about working with other people, Knoxville Raceway for us is just a couple hours. It's only 4 hours from Sioux Falls. It's like 5.5 for me, but whatever. But in the area here, we've got Jackson, we've got Knoxville, and we've got Husets that run sprint cars on a regular basis. Jackson not on a completely regular basis, but they have their pop-in shows. How important is it for you guys to have a great working relationship with the people over at Knoxville?
yeah, I think that's one of the things that I've been going to Knoxville for a lot of years. I have a suite down there. I mean, Doug has a lot of passion for Knoxville too. Obviously there's only ever going to be one Knoxville. We know that. We work very well with those guys down there. I mean, we share a lot of the same cars, and if people notice, we don't ever race on a Saturday night when Knoxville's racing. They're obviously taking off next week for our event, and we take off 3 weeks up at Huset's for the whole Knoxville festivities in August, just to give people the break, and it's better to work together. I mean, and I think we have a good relationship with them, and we do with a lot of the other tracks too, but we really don't compete with a lot of the other tracks as far as 410 portion of it. So there's really no one else in Sioux Falls that races around our area on Sunday nights that much in the sprint car world. So I think it's important to work with in the economy and the environment that I think we're going to be in for a long time. I mean, ups or downs or whatever. I mean, there's only so many fans to go around. There's only so much money in racing that people can spend. I mean, I hear a lot of the fans like, oh, when we race, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Well, it just can't happen, unless you're watching pay-per-view, you can sit and do it, but it doesn't work. And I think, not to get into it, because I'm sure you will, but I think there's probably too much racing going on right now. So,
Well, thanks for the lead in. As a track promoter, you have all kinds of sanctioning bodies probably wanting to have shows at your racetrack. And let's just not talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about it. You're obviously a successful World of Outlaw car owner. You have a couple World of Outlaw shows, including this one coming up next week. And we have the new High Limit series. Tell me, as a successful track owner, car owner, what High Limit has done, in your opinion, to the sprint car racing world?
yeah, I think first of all, I mean, I get along great with both series. Brad and Kyle doing what they're doing. The Outlaws, we've been with them a long time. Get along great with them. Have a lot of respect for both of them. I don't really envy what each of them are doing right now, because I wouldn't want to do it, because I've had a series before, a smaller one, and it's not that fun. But I think what it's done is it'll all get sorted out. Everyone, I'm not one to sit there and take sides. I've invested in the assets that they're going to have to race at. I'll just work with that. I mean, is there good and there's bad? Yeah, probably. But who's the big winner right now are the fans. So if I were the fans, I'd watch it all. I wouldn't just jump on one side. But I know that makes a little bit of competitive nature. But what series is better? This and this and that. But I think what the High Limit has done, and obviously there'll be tweaks to both series. They can't both sustain everything. So I feel there's going to be, some different changes and so forth, movement, like any business, any year. But I think what it's done, if you look at the High Limit, you can't take all those. If there was no High Limit, all those guys wouldn't be racing the World of Outlaws. So it's giving them an opportunity to go make some money, get a freedom of a schedule, and still come and race. Like, for example, next week, I know we have several high limit guys coming in to race at Huset's, and it is World of Outlaws sanctioned. So, but it gives them opportunity, same with Eldora, it gives them a little bit of an opportunity to do that. So you take some of those guys, I don't feel they would be out there on the road if it weren't for high limit. Now, where does it go in the future? I think we're going to run out of racetracks, good racetracks to race at. I really do. As you see that, there's some sketchy racetracks that both series race at right now, which I don't know if, I don't think we can withstand that. So I think there's going to have to be a give and a take at some point. But, I've owned and rolled up and bought a lot of businesses, and that's just the way the world works. And I'm not saying that'll ever happen there, but, something probably will happen at some point. The strong survive, put it that way. So.
You've hosted back, I want to say, was it 2022? Was that the initial year? No, 2023. Initial year of the high limit when they were just going to do the Tuesday night shows. And you actually hosted a high limit race at Huset Speedway. Does it surprise you that it went from just a midweek series to a full-blown series?
Yeah, I guess I always thought that was the intention, is to have like their 12 midweek races or whatever. But I guess one thing led to another, and I guess Brad made the business decision to do that, as far as like where he wanted to go with his goals, or where he wants to go, after his life of racing or whatever. So, I can't fault him for that at all. Like I said, the strong survive. The fan standpoint, they can jump on either side or whatever. But, as me being a business owner, I'm just watching it, and like I said, I'll invest in the assets, and we've had a high limit show. Brad and I talk a fair amount, and I have nothing contractually that tells me I can't do a high limit show. Brad and I just couldn't figure out a time to fit it in this year. And, they raced Eagle last week, and that's a successful show. So why go pour a Huset's Tuesday night on top of what we're doing next week, So we just couldn't find a date, Lanny, to put it on. So, in the future, I think you'll see high limit, at our tracks.
Just like you, Todd, I am a fan of sprint car racing. I poke around just to see what's going on social media, and I can't believe the divide the fans have over this deal, because it's just brutal. And I'm sitting back here going, man, I get to watch twice as much sprint car racing, and when they get together, it's even better. But I don't think the drivers have the animosity towards each other amongst the series as much as the fans.
No, I think I'm kind of a share only guy on social media. I don't comment.
I don't either.
I kind of share our racetrack stuff and our team stuff and leave it at that. But yeah, I hear it. I see it, that, the animosity, I guess, good and bad, I guess. I know one thing. The fan has it really good right now. You can pull up a Tuesday night. You can pay $150 a year on Flow, which is cheap. You go to a race, you're going to spend $150 drinking and eating. If Flow charged $500, it's a value. If the World of Outlaws charge $500, it's a value. I don't care what people say. It's it might get to that, so I wouldn't complain about the pay-per-view side of it either. As far as the price, because you're getting a hell of a value, guys.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but even regarding your weekly Sunday night show, which I think is one of the greatest weekly shows there is. We race, me and my family, we have a little dirt modified that we race up here in Casino Speedway on Sunday nights, and we have a 55-inch TV in our trailer, and it is locked on Huset Speedway, because it's like, man, I love racing with my kids, but I wish Huset Speedway was like this back when I was going as a fan too. So you guys definitely have established a great thing there by working with Dirt Vision. You have, I'm sure you have a lot of followers there too.
Yeah, we have our viewership on Sunday night's incredible. We get some of the numbers and so forth on that, and it's like, it's not so much. We still hope people come to the racetrack, and then we probably lose a few, in the area, especially if it's going to rain or it's cold or whatever. They'll just watch and we're racing. But you take the East Coast, all over the country, West Coast, East Coast, we get a lot of viewerships on Sunday night, because not everyone races sprint car on Sunday night on weekly tracks, unless the Outlaws or High Limit pop in a Sunday night show. So, yeah, it's a good marketing piece for us for Sunday night for national. So,
Todd, you're a car owner, and obviously you do it because of the love of the sport, and you want to succeed. You've got the World of Outlaw Point Championship last year, and kudos to that. Congratulations to you guys. You definitely earned it. This year, you guys are off. You're on a blazing start with the 2 car of David and Cody and the guys. Is there a certain race? Is there a certain event? Is there a certain series, an accomplishment that you as a car owner want to achieve that you have yet to achieve?
oh, for sure. The only big race that I won the National Open with Sammy. I won the Kings Royal with Sammy as a driver. David won it last year. I was a marketing partner with I think Chad Clemens. He didn't win it. He won it in the 41 car. David did, but Knoxville for sure. I always say that I'd rather win the Knoxville Nationals than the World of Outlaw Points Championship. That's just me. I'd rather win the Knoxville Nationals. I mean, because it is such a hard race because you have to be perfect all week. You can't have any miscues, or very few anyway, just the way it lines up on Saturday night. Knoxville Nationals for sure.
You guys have everything in place to do that. Does it take just a small bit of luck to win that race, or does it take just everything having that perfect storm to get it done?
Well, you've been involved in a lot of them, Lanny, with Donnie, so you know what it takes. It just takes, I always say it takes consistency, but it takes a little bit. You need a little bit of luck through the week too. You can't really, you need to get out of your heat race. You need to qualify decent and get your qualifying points, but you really need to get out of your heat race. And then you need to have pretty good luck and stay out of trouble and finish good in the A on your qualifying night, decent. So to get you up, I think you really, as much as I hate to say it, you really need to start in the first 3 rows for the most part to have a shot at that thing. So
That leads me to the question of a couple things. As a car owner at the Knoxville Nationals, it was 30 laps for forever, and then they went to the 50 lapper, which I'm going to say I'm still a fan of. As a car owner, is 50 laps right? Is the midway stop okay? Do you think we should allow fuel only instead of tires? What are your thoughts on the 50 lap portion?
I really don't have an opinion either way. I think we're all used to that, that caution, so you can go tweak your race car halfway through whenever that is. I guess I don't have an opinion either way, Lanny. If however they would do it, I think you have to be good through the whole thing anyway. So it's just, I don't mind it the way it is now. I mean, I didn't mind it the way it was back then. I mean, I don't know if we could run 35 laps or without a fuel stop now. And if I had to choose, I think I'd rather just have 35 laps, but I don't think it'd be touch and go making it on fuel. So,
Yeah, one big incident or a couple cautions, and that's out the window.
So
too.
I like the way they're doing it. I think it's fine.
The cars are so competitive these days compared to, let's just say, back in the even late 90s when Carl and Doug and Sammy were still smoking everybody everywhere they went. Everybody can buy the same stuff pretty much anymore. People talk about how difficult it is at Knoxville, and it used to be a 10-car invert, and they dropped it to an 8-car invert. Is 8 cars too much at Knoxville these days?
The way it's so competitive, and if you draw that first heat race, that's part of what I said. You have to have some luck, and part of that is when you start 8th, you have to either have the right heat race with the right guys in front of you, or if it's loaded up, it's one of those. That's what I'm saying about the luck. It's kind of that who's ever in your heat race. So I don't know. I know John McCoy probably won't change it, but I know when I owned the NSL, we started that the points deal like Knoxville runs weekly now, and I think John's taken a liking to you qualify and then you have your points, your invert, and then you're working on points. I don't know if they'll ever change that. We're doing that at Huset's. Obviously next week is really that format. I always say everyone's got to race the same deal. But you're right. I mean, it's a tougher. The cars are more equal now. I mean, everyone that comes to the Knoxville Nationals probably has an $80,000 motor, and several of them, for the
Yeah.
most part. So
I personally want them to keep it at 8 cars. That's maybe the fan of me, but I'm also in the infield for that race too with a certain car. But you also have to remember, if you can qualify good enough, you're going to start in the front of your B main on qualifying night.
right.
And then we've seen a lot of good runs from the B main qualifiers to the front of the A main on qualifying night also. So that's
exactly.
my thought on it. Yeah.
No, I don't mind it the way it is. I agree with you on that, because you run the B and you can get up into the top 10. I mean, you probably are looking okay on points anyway. So I don't mind it the way it is. I probably wouldn't mess with it if I were not. Why? It's not broke. Why try to fix it yet? So.
So, all right. Well, Todd, I know you've got a busy schedule. We're actually recording this on Friday. I know you're getting ready to head down to the Knoxville Speedway for the World of Outlaws show, and you've got a couple other stops, and you've obviously got a phone call you got to answer right now. So, I appreciate you taking just a short time out of your obviously very busy schedule coming up with that race to visit with us. And I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck with that race and with your World of Outlaw team.
Well, thanks, Laney. I think you're doing a great job with your podcast. They're not all good. Not all these guys out there are doing good podcasts, but you have a good, informative one, so I like it. So keep up the good work.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. We'll see you on down the road, and I'll see you at Huset's for sure next Wednesday.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
Okay, thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Laney.
All right. Well, Todd is definitely a busy guy. I know he's got a couple meetings he said they had to get to, and then they're going to get on down to Knoxville Raceway tonight. Like I said, we recorded this on Friday, and they've got a big 2-day World of Outlaw point race down there that he's going to be down and watch his car attend. I want to thank Todd for taking a few minutes out of his busy schedule to sit down and visit with us a little bit, tell us about what his roles are in the ownership side of not just successful racetracks, but of also owning some, but of owning some world very successful race teams in the past and present. So they've got a huge event at Huset Speedway coming up next week. Hope you guys will all do your best to get there if you can. It's definitely going to be a great show. All 4 nights, going to be well over 60 cars there. I know that. And if you can't do that, get tuned into Dirt Vision and give it a watch. You'll definitely appreciate the quality of the show they have going on down there. Once again, thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it if you could give me a like, give me a share, give me a follow. All that stuff helps, and I just enjoy all the support I've been getting from you. We'll see you on down the line. See you at the racetrack real soon. Thanks for tuning in.